Welcome to Community Church Unitarian Universalist. I am your worship associate, Bill Michele, and it is a joy to be with you today. Community Church is a progressive, open-minded, and inclusive religious community. We welcome all who are on a spiritual search for truth and meaning. Ours is a faith in action as we do the work of social justice and elevate compassion in our quest to live ethically, recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every being. Please look to your weekly email for announcements. We are delighted to welcome our own Michele Firestone to our pulpit today. Michele Firestone has spent most of her life in the New Orleans area and has been a practicing UU for about 30 years. She has a BA in English from UNO. She was a longtime member of North Shore UU and moved back to the South Shore in 2020. In addition to being co-chair of the worship ministry, she is chair of the CCUU Unity Justice Ministry. She is a retired paralegal and likes to spend her time reading, cooking vegan dishes, playing with her granddaughter Amelia, and occasionally getting into good trouble. Michele is an avid animal lover and lives in Metairie with her dog, Rue.
Good morning. Good morning. I have some announcements from the Community Justice Ministry. Today's the second Sunday of the month, which means it's Justice Sunday. Our Justice Sunday collection this month will go to the CCUU Endowment Fund. And Becca provided me with this blurb about the Endowment Fund. February is Endowment Month at CCUU, called the Fund for the Future. It was established in 2003, with the first endowment month being February 2005. Members and friends' contributions, as well as income from investment of the fund, help it to grow. The second Sunday of every month, the donation plate goes to a specific cause with anything given today and not otherwise designated. If it's not designated as your pledge or to go to the general fund, it will go to the endowment fund. We hope you will contribute this morning, and please know you can contribute to it at any time, simply by designating it as such when making the donation. The fund grew steadily from 2003, and once over a predetermined amount, started distributing grants in 2015, up to 4% per year of its value. So we're never using the principal, we're only using the income. The process is soliciting proposals from CCUU members and the greater community to, quote, special projects that further the mission of the church and enhance the programs of the committees, end quote. This year, in addition to replacing our sign out front, 5 other grants from a wide variety of submissions were selected. These will be shared in more detail later this month as we continue to celebrate the good work the fund enables. Thank you for supporting it today, in the future, and for those over the past 23 years that have made this possible. Yeah, it's a really awesome program. And continuing on our Justice Sunday, our film today is Whose Streets, a documentary about the Ferguson protests following the killing of Michael Brown. The film is a little over an hour and a half, and a lunch of white bean chili, which is vegan, gluten-free, and mildly spiced, but with some crystal hot sauce on the side for anybody who likes a little more spice, will be served on a donation basis. Now, since there is so much going on today, I'm wondering how many people think they'll stay for the film after the lunch. We start usually the film at 12:30. Give me a show of hands if you plan to stay for the film. Yeah, so that's a very few people. We might just need to postpone this film until next month, I'm thinking. But we'll still have lunch. Come have lunch with us. And we have a very exciting announcement. For anybody who didn't see the newsletter yet, the Community Justice Ministry is very excited to introduce a new monthly effort to help feed hungry people in our city. We've been accepting donations for Justice Sunday lunches, like today, for the past few months, and we plan on doing so for the foreseeable future. Our plan is to use that money and hopefully some grant money we applied for to deliver to community fridges that serve people experiencing food insecurity. I can think of nothing more socially just than feeding hungry people. The idea is that individuals can sign up to cook or provide a component of the meal at little or no cost to themselves, and we can gather once a month in the fellowship hall and assemble those meals. And you can see there's a sign-up sheet in the fellowship hall. We need like 3 people to sign up to make some box jambalaya or some box cornbread or whatever, and bring it here. Once a month, we'll get together, we'll assemble the meals, and then we'll have people sign up to deliver those meals to the community fridges. And if you're not familiar with that, you can talk to anybody in the Justice Ministry, you can talk to me after church. Anybody who's in the Justice Ministry right now, please raise your hand so people will know who you are and they can talk to you. This is really, really rewarding work, and it's very much needed in our community, and we'll do our little part as long as we can. And it's meant to be, if we have enough people signing up, it won't be much work at all. I can't imagine it being more than an hour here assembling the meals, because we're doing the cooking ahead of time. So it'll be really easy. So please sign up. That's all I have.
It is our ritual to light a chalice invoking hope and eternal truth to our worship. Please join us in singing the words of chalice lighting. We light this flame. The words are printed in your order of service.
Our opening words are by Libby Stoddard. We have come into this room of hope, where our hearts and minds are opened to the future. We have come into this room of justice, where we set aside our fear to name freely every oppression. We have come into this room of love, where we know that no lives are insignificant. We have come into this room of song, where we unite our voices in the somber and beautiful melodies of life.
Our reading today is from Amy Leask. It's titled, Hope is Hard Work. Hope is hard work. It's messy, tiring, and doesn't provide any guarantee that you'll end up where you want to be. It requires redos and second chances, timeouts, and recharges. But as a writer, I know that you can't edit a blank page. As a philosopher, I know that if you don't ask the questions, you get zero answers. I hope for a living, and I hope so that I have a life. Something may come of the things that I do because I hope. There are so many ways to practice hope as a verb. If you are reaching out to your community, even in small ways, you hope. If you are reading to your child and talking to them like they're an intelligent being, you hope. If you are growing your own vegetables or sewing your own clothes, you hope. If you are supporting a local artist or business, you hope. If you are a researcher or you are workshopping a problem, you hope. If you teach or you heal, you hope. If you are slapping on a mask to go get groceries, you hope. If you are posting information or encouragement online, and trolling does not count, you hope. If you're like me and you spend your time creating and sharing, you hope. If you got out of bed this morning and made something or did something, you hope. Now is our sacred time of joys and sorrows. If you are online, you may write your joys and sorrows in the comments section to be read aloud. In person, you may write them on one of the cards being passed out by our greeters. Please remain seated as we sing hymn number 208, Every Time I Feel the Spirit. From Jim, a joy to have my brother Dan and my sister Mary with me today. Welcome. And a joy, happy to be back here with you after having to miss the last 2 weeks. A couple of more. Rejoice, for the ruling class is discredited and the people are ready for a revolution of spirit. We'll get caught up. And another joy, for the chance to gather with like-minded individuals here. That is truly a joy.
Yes.
We light 2 more candles, one for the joys still bubbling up, too new to share, and one for the sorrows that we cannot yet put into words. Know that we hold you in our hearts. Now, let us pause for a moment of silence, recognizing the joys and sorrows of those in our community, spoken and unspoken.
Our second reading is Winter Meditation by Reverend Tess Baumberger. She's also the author of our sermon this morning, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. Something has changed in me this winter. In the past, I've focused on how long winter is, how miserable I find it, and how it seems so interminable. This winter, I find myself thinking instead that every day, every hour, every minute brings us just that much closer to spring. We all experience wintry times when things seem harsh and frozen, or muffled by layered shrouds of snow. Not so much here, but you get the idea. It's helpful to remember that each day that dawns bleakly, each night that wraps its cold cloak around our hearts, brings us closer to that time of warm and vibrant sun. It is perhaps helpful to consider that turning towards spring is an active thing. The Earth, which seems so stable, in fact, flies quickly through space on its path that tilts us ever toward the source. So too, each memory we lay to rest, each truth in ourselves that we encounter and accept, each wrong act that we forgive, ushers us on toward our renewal. Our sermon this morning is by Reverend Tess Baumberger. We have a resource called Soul Matters, which is pretty wonderful, especially for churches with no minister, because they provide readings and music and lots of things, including sermons that we can read on days when we don't have somebody with a sermon prepared or a guest speaker. So this one was picked. I hope you enjoy it. You might be hearing one or two more sermons like this from Soul Matters in the future. Bringing hope when hope is hard to find. Our tradition derives from two separate religions that merged half a century ago, Unitarianism and Universalism. Unitarians believed the divine is one or unitary, hence the name. They upheld the importance of rationality and reason and tended to be intellectual. This is a matter of pride to us. We've got a few intellectuals in here, I would say. Though they also had their share of great intellectuals or intellects, the Universalists tended to be more working class and down to earth. They taught that God was too good, kind, loving, and fair to condemn anyone to eternal torment for some finite human mistake. Some Universalists thought the real baddies would have to maybe do some time first, but all would eventually go to heaven. They taught universal salvation, hence the name Universalist. The Reverend David Sammons says the merger of these two religions brought Unitarian reason and democratic process together with the heart and soul of Universalism. Even today, this dual heritage challenges us to bring our hearts, minds, and spirits together in considering religious questions. It's not always easy to find the balance of these three: the healthy skepticism of the mind, the love of the heart, and the steady optimism of the soul. But we do our best. That balance is most challenging when we confront the sometimes overwhelming reality of suffering and deep injustice in our world. Today's questions are: how do we hold on to hope in the face of bitter reality? And how might our heritage help us in that great spiritual task? One of the spiritual acts of mercy in the Christian tradition is bringing each other hope when hope is hard to find. We do this by comforting one another when we're sorrowing and consoling each other when we're burdened with doubt and despair. In doing this merciful work, we tend to draw more on the heart than the mind, So let me talk for a moment about the bases of hope in the heart and soul of Universalism. Universalist theology offered a hope-filled alternative to the harsh Calvinism of its early days. Calvinism taught that only a few predetermined elect people would go to heaven. Adding insult to injury, they taught that wealth was a reliable sign of divine favor. So the rich were the lucky ones, and poor people would not only suffer on earth, but also in the afterlife. And so this is me speaking here. Imagine, like, when I read that, 3 people popped into my mind, 3 billionaires popped into my mind, and I thought, so according to the Calvinists, those guys are going to heaven, and all the good people in this church are not. So it's a little disturbing. Okay, back to the sermon. According to the Calvinists, if you were not one of the wealthy elect, it didn't matter how good you were in this life, how worthy you were of heaven, you were going to suffer intensely and for all eternity in hell. You can see how the Universalist idea that heaven is not an exclusive club offered hope, especially to the poor and downtrodden. This theology appealed to the Rhode Island Brigade of George Washington's army. One of the brigade's chaplains was Universalist preacher John Murray. Some thought he was a British spy because he had just emigrated from England. Others objected to his Universalist ideas, seeing them as heresy. When these people petitioned to remove him from his post, several soldiers asked George Washington to keep Murray on. Washington agreed, and Murray stayed until his health gave out. Along with a dedicated group of lay people, including one freed slave, Murray helped found the first official Universalist church in our nation in Gloucester, Massachusetts. During his days as a traveling preacher, Murray had narrowly escaped lynching more than once. Folks in Gloucester merely threw rocks at him and members of his congregation in the streets. One day in 1774, Murray was preaching in Boston when someone threw a rock through the church window, just missing hitting him in the head. Murray picked up the rock, showed it to the congregation, and said, "This argument is solid and weighty, but it's neither rational nor convincing." Then he tossed it aside and went right back to his preaching. In my opinion, Universalists have better stories than the Unitarians. More colorful, anyway. There are several corkers about George de Benneville. Born in France in 1703, de Benneville grew up in the royal court in London. He seems to have been something of a problem child, and so was sent to sea at the age of 12 to serve as a midshipman. In Algiers, and this is not the city across the river, I'm talking about the country in North Africa, he observed the behavior of some Moors helping a fallen comrade in ways he considered more Christian than his own. He apparently repented of his wrongs and had a vision of Jesus telling him he was forgiven. He decided that if he could be pardoned, then so could the whole world. De Benneville started preaching Universalism in France when he was only 17 years old. For this, he was arrested and condemned to death. He was actually on the scaffold, waiting the fall of the axe when King Louis XV granted him reprieve. After that narrow escape, he went to Germany, where he continued to preach. At some point in there, he trained in medicine. Another time, de Benneville was actually pronounced dead after a terrible illness. He later reported that guardian spirits then escorted him through heaven and hell, where he felt great compassion for the suffering. One of his guardians comforted him with a vision of all souls eventually being restored to heaven. He was in the coffin when he sat up with a new vision to preach a gospel of universal love for the entire human race. Eventually, de Benneville emigrated to our country. He settled in Pennsylvania, where he worked as a doctor, socializing and trading herbal medicines with Native Americans. He believed that all peoples of all races, cultures, and genders were equally worthy. That's some pretty radical stuff. He said that if we look at inward spirits, we see that behind every appearance of diversity, there is an interdependent unity of all things. This is the hopeful heart and soul of universalism, that all people have the capacity for goodness. The good news, or the gospel, we inherit from the universalist side of our faith, is that there are many means of grace, and that there is a divine spark within each of us. Furthermore, if we fan those flames and let the inner light shine, we give others warmth and hope, even in the deepest, coldest cavern of despair. This is what heart and soul can do to bring us hope. Let us not forget that our minds are also important sources of religious truth and inspiration in our tradition. What might they teach us about hope? I once heard an interview on science and hope with the South African Quaker cosmologist George Ellis. It seemed like a good way to bring in the rationality so important to the Unitarian side of our family. Quakers are pretty close to us in that they have no creed, appreciate our minds, and are very committed to social justice. As someone who applies mathematics to real-world problems, George Ellis says that what happened in South Africa when apartheid was overthrown through nonviolent means defied the calculus of rationality. The calculus of rationality seemed to indicate a bloodbath there, especially after apartheid had tumbled. But that did not happen. How? Ellis said that the organizations he worked with refused to see those who upheld apartheid as evil and unredeemable, which is much the same attitude as the early Universalists. Ellis and his friends distinguished the evil actions of the people from the people themselves. This was difficult to do as each nonviolent effort met with fierce and violent resistance. Sounds a little bit like what's happening in our country today. Each nonviolent effort met with fierce and violent resistance. Ellis did at times lose hope. At one point, he left South Africa for 4 years, but came back because he says there was stuff to be done. This reminds me of a story I once heard from lesbian songwriter and activist Holly Near. At a rally, she asked people to sing her song, "We Are a Gentle, Angry People," which is a great song. I wish I had thought to include it in our service today. Oh, I would love to after this, if we can. It's wonderful, yeah. One of the lines is about being a hopeful people, and someone in the crowd shouted that she was not feeling hopeful. We can relate to that. Near replied, "Hope is not a feeling, it's a commitment." Ellis, returning to South Africa despite his despair because there was stuff to be done, sounds like that sort of commitment to hope. Since the falling of apartheid, Ellis has co-authored a book called On the Moral Nature of the Universe. In it, he argues that, like mathematics, ethics is a reality in the universe that we discover rather than invent. He says one universal ethical truth that can give us hope is captured in the Greek word kenosis, which means to empty out or to let go. Ellis points out that in every great world religion, there exists this idea of emptying out and letting go for the sake of others. When we act with humanity and sacrifice, particularly against enemies, it defies the calculus of rationality and transforms the context. When one person is willing to give up even his or her life so others might have freedom, like Martin Luther King Jr. or Gandhi or others more recently, it has deeply transformational effects, even upon enemies. As an example, in the interview, George Ellis shares an email he received from a Scottish soldier named David Christie. The soldier served years ago in what is now Yemen. Christie's commander really knew how to make peace, training the soldiers not to react when they were attacked. He trained them only to use force when they could be 100% sure that a particular person had launched a grenade or shot at them. Christie says this commander helped each of them grow the heart of a peacemaker. Christie's battalion had 102 grenades thrown at them. In response, they fired only 2 shots, killing 1 grenade thrower. The cost to the soldiers was over 100 men wounded and 1 killed. Their refusal to react in anger was not expected. Gradually, the local people who suffered the most from the terrorist attacks began to trust the soldiers. The locals let the terrorists know they were no longer welcome. The result of self-sacrificial, humble, peaceful response in the long term was peace. Kenosis, the power of humbly emptying out of responses that defy the calculus of rationality, allows for hopeful outcomes, even in the most dreadful and despairing circumstances. Ellis believes, like math, kenosis is a truth that exists in the universe and that we discover rather than invent. He proves its existence by telling stories that illustrate its reality and its powers. Earlier, I told you some amusing stories from our Universalist heritage. Each story has an element of kenosis in it, and each also holds an element of hope. John Murray offered humble soldiers hope rather than hell, and they intervened to keep him on. He continued preaching his good news despite threats of lynching and the realities of rock throwing. He did not react by condemning his assailants as evil and beyond redemption. On the contrary, he taught that even those who persecuted him would go to heaven. George de Benneville witnessed the Christian kenosis of people he might have seen as beneath him. He saw their goodness along with his sense of being forgiven despite his failings as proof that all are saved and all are worthy. He lived that belief through sacrificing his own safety in order to offer a message of religious and spiritual liberation to others. We can use the power of our minds to find proof of Ellis's kenosis in our own tradition, and it gives us hope even today, whether or not we believe exactly as they did. We can even find stories of emptying out, of humble self-sacrifice, right here and right now. Coming together in loving, faithful community gives us a place to share our sorrows, a place to renew ourselves, to rest, and to find the strength to go out in the world again. It gives us a place to share latitudes of our hearts, the insights of our minds, and the expansions of our spirits in a context of caring acceptance. I know the power of such a warm, caring community. I've seen it here. That's part of the sermon, but I also echo that. I've seen that here. I've seen you care for each other in ways that are tender and real. This gives me hope. The truth is that there are people in the world who, blinded by fear and hatred, perform acts of violence. They deserve our compassion. To live in hatred is to live in hell of your own making, which is nearly impossible to escape. The truth is that these people are in the minority. It might not seem that way because they earn so much media attention, but they are the minority. The glorious fact remains that there are many more people in the world who live good lives, who sacrifice themselves willingly and humbly for the benefit of others. The truth is that these people far outnumber those who live lives of desperate, despairing hatred or greed. When we live in love, even when the world gives us reason to hate, when we live in peace, even when the world gives us reason to practice war, when we live in hope, even when the world gives us reason to despair, we live in a heaven of our own making. When we discover and enact the kenosis that exists in the universe, we defy the calculus of rationality and transform our context into something that looks more like heaven. May we endeavor ever to do so, and so may it be.
It's 170.
170, okay.
So please join us in a spontaneous hymn selection number 170, 170. We are a gentle, angry people.
Singing for our Lord.
was great. Thank you, Dave. Community Church Unitarian Universalist is a self-sustaining congregation. Members and friends' generosity help us do the sacred work of bringing justice, spirituality, and compassion to our community and beyond. You can give online, by text, or in person this morning. See the information on the back of your order of service for giving by text. The hymn for the offering is number 119, 119, Once to Every Soul and Nation.
Our closing words are from the Reverend Tandy Rogers. May you choose hope even when it trembles. May it be the kind of hope that plants seeds, waits in the dark, and trusts the stirring. Hope that doesn't deny despair, but dares to outlast it. Please join in our closing hymn, number 151, I Wish I Knew How. Please stand as you're willing and able, and remain standing for the extinguishing of the chalice.
Please join me now in the words of our chalice extinguishing. We extinguish this chalice here, that it might glow gently in our hearts. May it light your path as you leave this place. May it guide your way until we are together again.